Okay, today we're going to start from Hadar Amarava. Let's see, maybe like 18 lines down from the top. I have to count and see if I got that right. We're on 12b, Yud Beis, Amud Beis. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 18. 18. Hadar Amarava. Hadar Amarava. Okay, we thank Hashem. We're able to learn Torah every day. It's because of our learning. Have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. So we had a interesting machlekes, and it was quite a complex discussion about shirayim shechasru ben kmitza la'aktara. The remnant of a mincha gets partially lost. It's partially missing after the kaimetz was already taken. So when that happens, there was a machlekes for Rabbi Yochanan or Reish Lakish. If you continue with offering up the kmitza on the mizbeach, Rabbi Yochanan held that you do. However, he also said there was some machlekes about this as well, that you don't eat the shirayim because the shirayim has a problem with it because it's not intact, it's not fully intact. So you continue with the process, but you can't eat it. You can't eat the remnant. Okay, all of that was an old machlekes. We had that a few weeks ago or last week, whatever. Comes along the Gemara yesterday and says, we're discussing pigel. So when you go ahead and you take that kaimetz and you offer it up on the mizbeach, which Rabbi Yochanan says that's what you do, you offer it on the mizbeach. However, we also have the rule that you're not going to eat that shirayim because according to that opinion, you don't eat the shirayim. So when you offer the kaimetz on the mizbeach, is that haktara significant enough that it can make pigel, and that it will also take away from the laws of Me'ilah that we're applying to the Shirayim the whole time? Since a mincha is Kodesh Kodashim, so then it's Kodesh Kodashim has the rules of Me'ilah on it. If you have personal benefit from this, you have person by mistake, by unintentionally, a person have to bring a sacrifice. You have personal benefits from the Shirayim. The question is, but after the Haktar Sakaimetz, then the laws of Me'ilah go off. So on this Haktar Sakaimetz, which is not effective on the Shirayim, because you can't eat the Shirayim anyway, do the laws of Me'ilah go off? How significant is the Haktar Sakaimetz when you can't eat the Shirayim anyway? So we had a machlekes between Rav Huna and Rava. Rav Huna said, based on another machlekes between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva, if the haktara, if the zrika by a regular carbon, zrika by a regular carbon corresponds to the haktara of a mincha. Because we said there's 4 avodas of a carbon, there's 4 avodas of a mincha. The zrika, sprinkling of the blood, corresponds to the burning of the kaimetz. That's they correlate those two. Okay, so there's a machlekes if you do the zrika on a carbon. However, the body of the carbon had left the azara. Does the zrika, does it affect the body of the carbon, even though the body of the carbon isn't there? And what would that be significant? Again, Me'ilah as well. Do we say that the laws of Me'ilah go off from the body of the carbon because the zrika was done, or do we say that no, the zrika is not effective on the body because the fact is you can't eat the body now anyway, the flesh, because it has a psul of yaitze, because it has left the courtyard. So it's machlekes Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer. Turns out that now we can pull this 2 ways. Rav Huna comes along and he says that even according to Rabbi Akiva, that holds that the zrika would be effective on yaitze, However, it won't be effective on chisaron. It won't be effective in our case where the shirayim is not intact. And Rabbi Kiva would agree to that. Both opinions would hold that the haktara sakaimetz for shirayim shechasru ben kmitz haktara is not effective. That's Rav Huna's view. Rava's view was exactly the opposite. That even Rabbi Lezer that holds that that the zrika doesn't help for the yaitse, that's only because it's not inside. But when is inside, which is in our case, but it's just lacking, it's just not intact, then he would hold that it will be effective. Now comes along our Gemara and says, Hada Bei Rava Me'ahi. Rava retracts. And he says, Hada Rama Rava. Rava then said, Lav Milsi Damri. What I said before is not correct. I said before that the Haktara is going to be, the Haktara means the burning, the offering up of the Kaimetz would be effective on Shirayim Shechasru. Yeah, you hear what's going on over here? It's like it's a complex topic. And he says, I'm going to retract from that. I'm going to say that it actually will not be effective. The Tanya, as was taught in a brisa, Kodesh Kadashim Hu. It is Kodesh Kadashim. Is it Kodesh Kadashim Hu or he? How do they write it over there? Kodesh Kadashim Hu. Okay. And this is talking about, what's number 22? The Brisa derives a law that follows from the apparently superfluous term hu. Okay. She'im nifrasa achas. It's talking about the lechem apanim, the showbread. If one of the showbread breaks, nifrasa achas, it cracks. It's supposed to be fully intact, all the 12 loaves. She'im nifrasa achas michalisea. Achas mihen chalisea. One second, let me just see how to read this. Achas michalisea. Yeah, you dropped the word mihen. If one of them cracks, kulam psulas, all of them are invalid. Okay. What do we see? But now we're going to be medayak. Hayatzes. But let's say they didn't crack. Let's say they were still intact, but it just left the courtyard area. Hani dikagavai ksheris, and the ones that are left would still be kosher. Okay. Man shamet ladam esrika me'alsli, I'd say. What we're seeing here is from the diuk. We're seeing that if it leaves, it's still going to be kosher. We're going to say that the ones that are left are kosher. Who's the one that holds that the zrika is effective for yaitse, for something that has left the courtyard? Rabbi Akiva. That was Rabbi Akiva. Ukamar, and nevertheless he says nifr salai. Nevertheless he says that if it's cracked, it won't be effective, and it's going to be everything is going to be puzzle. We're looking at now the cracked loaves are like shirayim shechasru ben kmitza la'aktara. We're looking at them as if they're not intact, right? Which was our case before, wasn't intact. And what Rava said before was that even according to Rabbi Eliezer, that holds that the zrika doesn't help, but over here we're going to say that the haktara will help. Now Rava is saying that Rabbi Akiva that says that the zrika will help over here will say that it won't help. Yeah. In the first example, that's right. In the first example, it says that they all become puzzle, and then we say that by yaitse, the ones that are remaining are still effective. Even that, we're not talking about where there's extra loaves. Here we're talking about where there's 12 loaves because there's supposed to be 12 loaves, right? There's 12 loaves of shubrit.
One of them cracked, all of them are possible.
Yeah, one cracks, they're all possible, right?
And then the second one, it's like right.
That the second one is because it's outside. We're differentiating between cracked or outside. Because what we're saying, why if it's outside is it still effective? Because we're saying that we still consider it in existence when it's outside, which means that the zrika, zrika meyalas liyotzer, right? The Rabbi Kiva that held that the sprinkling of the blood is effective on the animal that's outside for whatever significance that has. Again, meila. What we're gonna say here is that even though part of the showbread is outside, we're gonna say that the offering up of the bazichin is going to be effective to consider that part of this. It still acknowledges that it exists, and it's not considered cracked. You're not going to be able to eat it, but it acknowledges that it exists. So we still have the mincha intact. That would be Rabbi Akiva's opinion, which means that according to Rabbi Akiva, that haktara would work for the yaitse. However, but chisaron not. Okay. Amalei Abaya. So did I finish what we're saying? Man Shamalei Rabbi Akiva. Okay. Kamer Nefesh Amalei Abaya. What's the Zion here? Abaya says Lo'ilam. Yeah, it's in. Lo'ilam matzis lemeimar. I don't know if he's adding in words or he's adding in commentary. I think it's commentary. Okay. Abaya says, Miktani ha yatis. You just got this from a diuk, from an implication. It doesn't actually say what you're saying. We said that if it's broken, it doesn't. Then all of the lechem apanim is not kosher. Right? It's all puzzle. The whole thing is puzzle because one of them broke. And you understood from that if it's you implied that if it left the courtyard, then it's still going to be kosher. Does it actually say that? Maybe your implication was wrong. Maybe your diak was not correct. Dilma, maybe the diak was supposed to be hanitmes hanach ksheres. Not if it left, it's still kosher. Maybe it's not a din, and this is not the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. This is actually a different halacha. It's saying that if it cracked, it's going to be puzzle, but if it became tamei, it's going to be kosher. That's the diak. The diak is that if it became tamei, it will still be kosher. My taima, what's the difference between cracked or tamei? We still don't have the shirayim intact, right? It's tamei. It's not. You won't be able to eat it. My taima demratzitzitz, because by tuma we have special dispensation for tuma because the tzitz, that front plate that the Kohen Gadol wears, atones for any type of tumah that goes on with the sacrifices. Aval yatzas, but actually, if it would have left the courtyard, we would say that it's actually not going to be valid. And which opinion is that? Rabbi Elazar, Damarein Zrikamelis Liyoitze, and it's actually the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. If it's Rabbi Elazar, then why didn't you say it left? And you could have said the same halacha. You could have said if it cracked or if it left. You could have said the halacha only by if it left. That would say that it's all possible. Why did it just say nifrasa? Kamash Malan wanted to tell me a chiddush. The afilu nifrasa b'fnim lemahana le'aktar. Want to tell me even though it's still inside the courtyard, the aktar doesn't help for it. Of course, if it's outside the aktar, it doesn't help for it because it's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Aval Rabbi Akiva. Now, if that would be the case, that our Mishnah is really that this Mishnah here, that's the Brisa rather, it talks about the lechem apanim that cracked is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, then that might mean that Rabbi Akiva argues. Aval Rabbi Akiva dam zrika meyalas liyaitze afilu chisar nami mahani le'aktara. Then maybe if it helps for the yaitze, maybe it will also help for the chisaron. I just don't know what the Gemara is concluding. Let me see how they conclude this. 31. According to this interpretation, the Brisa follows the view of Rabbi Lezer, according to whom burning the kaimitz is not effective either for an offering that is outside the courtyard or for a deficient one. We thus have no indications what Rabbi Kiva would hold in the case of a deficient offering. We have no indication. That's the conclusion. Is that we don't know. Okay. Let's start the new Mishnah. Lechol kechatzi zayis alahakter kechatzi zayis. We're talking about pigul, and we said that pigul needs to be 100% pigul. If you have any other thoughts that would invalidate it, so that won't be pigul. And we have to try to combine with if it's a half a zayis. What will that? Now we're talking about what will the half a zayis combine with? 2 half a zayis will become a kazayis. If you had intention that you're going to eat the shirayim lemachar while you're doing the kmitza, then I'm going to eat the kazayas of the shirayim lemachar, then that would be pigul out of the allotted time. Here we're saying that he has intention to eat a half a zayis, which is okay, that's fine. And he's going to burn a half a kazayas. Say that's not pigul, that's still kosher. Because his eating of the shirayim and the burning of the kaimetz don't combine. You don't have a full kazayas of either of them. You only have a half a zayas of the eating of the shirayim and a half a zayas of the burning of the kaimetz. That doesn't combine to make one full kazayas of pigul. Because those are 2 separate activities. Taima, the Gemara is medayek. What's the reason why it doesn't combine? The lechel alahakter, because one is eating, you're eating, and the other one is you're burning. Ha lechel v'lechel. But let's say you had intention that you're going to eat a half a kazayas of the shirayim, and you're going to eat a half a kazayas of the kaimetz. Not that you're going to burn it, but you're going to eat a half a kazayas of the. And so Gemara says, "Lechel davar shein darka lechel mitzdaref." But you're eating something that's not meant to be eaten. And we had Vaktani Reisha, but we learned in the Mishnah clearly different than the diuk that you're giving me from our Mishnah. What did we learn in Vaktani? We learned in the Mishnah, Vaktani Reisha, Lechel davar shedarka lechel lahakta davar shedarka lahakta. Davar shedarka lechel and shein darka lechel loy. If it's not meant to be eaten, then that's not going to be counted as considered as eating. Right? So the diuk of our Mishnah that would tell me that it would become pigul when you have thoughts of eating the kaimetz contradicts an outright expression in the Mishnah, in the previous Mishnah, that says that it won't become pigul like that. This is Mantana. Who is the author that says that of the Mishnah? Yeah, but the diuk, the implication of our Mishnah that says, when is it not pigul because you wanted to burn it? But if you wanted to eat it, then it would be pigul. That's it. It implies that it would be pigul. Now that implication contradicts what we learned clearly in the Mishnah before. Now we're asking, so who's the author of our Mishnah? So we say, Rabbi Yirmi Hamani, the author, who would the author be? It would be Rabbi Lezer. It would be Rabbi Lezer, Damar Mechashven Me'achilas Adam La'achilas Mizbeach, that you can combine what a person eats to what the Mizbeach eats. Me'achilas Mizbeach La'achilas Adam. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. HaKaimitz as a mincha. If someone does kmitza on a mincha, he does a scoop, lechel davar shein darka lechel, and he has intention to eat something that's not meant to be eaten. Lahakta davar shein darka lahakta, to burn something, to offer up something that's not meant to be offered up. It's kosher. That doesn't do anything because it's not even considered a machshav of pigul. Thoughts of pigul only apply if you have intention to eat something that's meant to be eaten out of its allotted time, but not if you're going to eat something that's not meant to be eaten out of its allotted time. And Rabbi Lezer says no, it's possible. Which means that according to Rabbi Lezer, if he had the thoughts of eating the kazayas, the kaimetz, So then that would combine with the achila of the shirayim, and it would be a full kazayas. Who's saying all of this? This is Rabbi Yirmiyah. Okay. Abaya says, Afilu Temer Rabbanan. Actually, our Mishnah, the second Mishnah that we just learned, could actually be the Rabbanan, who hold that you can't combine something that's not meant to be eaten. Don't say that the implication here, what we've been doing lately, is we're reading something, we're implying what it says, and we're implying something else, and then we're saying, oh, that contradicts. It says, but that implication, maybe you got it wrong. Don't say, but if you would eat something that's not meant to be eaten, then it would become pigel. Elaima, rather you should say, halechal v'lechal davar shedarke lechal. Why is it not pigel in our Mishnah? Because one was eating and one was burning. But if they would both be eating, then that would be pigel. It says, 1 second. My kamashmalan. What type of chiddush is that? That we knew already from the Mishnah. It says, lechal kachatzi zayis b'chutz, kachatzi zayis l'machar, kachatzi zayis l'machar, kachatzi zayis, sorry, kazayas b'chutz, kazayas l'machar. I didn't read that right. Kazayas outside, kazayas tomorrow. Kazayas l'machar, kazayas b'chutz. Kazayas tomorrow or kazayas outside. Kachatzi zayis b'chutz, kachatzi zayis l'machar, kachatzi zayis l'machar, kachatzi zayis b'chutz. Possible in bekaris. You see clearly that half a zayis eating is going to combine with another half a zayis of eating. Now, in that case, then it would be, because half of it was b'chutz, chutzim kaimai, outside the allotted place, location, so it won't be pigel. But you see that it's still considered a full kazayas of psul. You see that thoughts of a half a zayis over here, half a zayis over there will combine. So what will we need our Mishnah to tell me? Ilechal v'lechal davar shein darke lechal kamash malan demitzdaref mereisha shamet minech. This is a very interesting piece. If you're trying to tell me that eating something that's like the previous Gemara, the previous way of learning this, that eating half a kazayas of the shirayim, which that's meant to be eaten, combined with half a kazayas of eating half a kazayas of the kaimetz, which is not meant to be eating. If you want to tell me that that would be considered pigel, so mereisha shamet minei, from the reisha I have already heard that doesn't work. This is a very different mereisha shamet minei than you would usually find in the Gemara. Mereisha shamet minei in the Gemara usually means, I already know this from the reisha. Why do you have to tell it to me again? Here, mereisha shamet minei means I already know from the reisha that what you're saying is false. Not why do you have to tell it to me again? From the Reisha I heard that it's not true. If it's just coming to tell me that eating something and burning something doesn't combine, that I already knew from the first Mishnah. If eating something that is edible combined with eating something that's not edible, if that doesn't combine, half a kazayas of this and half a kazayas of that, so then then eating and burning should combine. If two eatings don't combine, then eating and burning for sure shouldn't combine. The Gemara says actually, it says yes, it still is a chiddush here, because we have a chiddush from our Mishnah. In the first Mishnah, we didn't say that eating and burning doesn't combine. We just said that eating and eating won't combine if one is eating something that that's not meant to be eating. But what about burning that thing that's not meant to be eating, but it's meant to be burnt? So Salkadait Chamina, I could have thought that Hasam hu deloy kiyor cheka mechashiv. Why does eating something that's not edible not combine with eating something that is edible? Because what you're doing is something that's not normal. You're eating something that's not edible. It's not supposed to be eaten. It's part of the kaimetz. It's supposed to go on the altar. But now, when you're thinking exactly what it's meant to be done, here you're thinking half a gazayas of eating the shirayim. Perfect. Shirayim supposed to be eaten. Plus a half a gazayas of burning the kaimetz. perfect. The kaimitz is meant to be burnt. You would think that because both of those are normal that's the part of the process, we should say that combines because that's what's meant to be. Mashmalan comes to teach me that our Mishnah, the Chiddush is exactly what it's saying, that it won't combine. Okay, for the loss of pigel. Adlakal Menachos. See what's going on over here, Naftali. The sugya that we had yesterday was very complicated, and we finished it today. Shirayim shachasr ben kmitza lakdara. If the kaimetz is going to help for that, so apparently Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Shmuel, his son, put their comments on this, and it's right over here. You see, on that sugya that we have this whole section over here in the comment in the Rashi. It's Rabbi Meir, which is Rashi's son-in-law, and Rabbi Shmuel, which is the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson, Rabbi Meir's son. They wrote their comment over here. Okay. Next parak. Hakem Mitzvah Mincha. If someone does kmitza, so far so good, right? Does kmitza on the mincha, and lechal shiraya ilahakte kaim tzilamacher. However, he has intention that he's going to eat the shirayim tomorrow, or he's going to burn the kaimetz tomorrow. Classic pigel. Ma'ida Rabbi Yosi bazeshu pigel. Rabbi Yosi would agree that it's pigel. No, it's funny they didn't say anything about Rabbi Yosi holds. Later on, we're going to have Rabbi Yosi, and our Mishnah assumes that you know what the Mishnah is going to say later, and so it already tells us now that even according to Rabbi Yosi, it's going to be pigel. We'll see in a moment what Rabbi Yosi holds, and then we'll have to figure out in the Gemara what his opinion is. And you're gonna that if someone eats the shirayim, would be chayiv kares. But let's say when he does the kmitza, he has intention that the levina is going to be burnt tomorrow. When's the levina supposed to be burnt? Today. He's supposed to burn the kaimetz. He's supposed to burn the levina. So he's doing the kmitza, and he has intention that the other part of the matir. There's two parts that are supposed to get burnt from the sacrifice. The other part, which he's not involved with right now, he's going to do that tomorrow. So over there, in that case, Rabbi Yosi Yomer Pasal. Rabbi Yosi says that it only invalidates the sacrifice of Ein by Kares, but it's not going to be Kares if someone eats the shirayim of this. It's not going to be pigel. The Chacham say no. That's a regular case of pigel. He had intentions to do part of the service tomorrow. It's a classical pigel. Amrullah, the Chum said to Rabbi Yosi, Amrullah, they said to him, Mashina zemina zevach. What's the difference between if someone shechts a karban and he has intention to offer the emurim, the limbs of the sacrifice tomorrow? It's a classic pigel. So here, he's doing kmitza, and he has intention to offer not the limbs tomorrow, but to offer the frankincense tomorrow, which is exactly like offering the limbs. So why would it not be pigel? It's a classic case of pigel. Amalehem, Rabbi Yosi responded, Zevach, shazevach, tamiyim b'sar v'emur v'echad. Because by the karban, the blood and the limbs, it's all one animal. It's all one organism. However, levaina ain't a mincha. The levaina is not part of the mincha, and therefore, having thoughts while you're dealing with the kaimetz regarding the levaina won't make the mincha pigel. We have to figure out why. There's several possibilities for this. The Gemara is going to go through. Is it this one? Is it that one?
Excuse me, Eli, did you just say the Levona is not part of the mincha?
That's what Rabbi Yosi claims. Which, as opposed to the animal, he's contrasting it with an animal. That when you sprinkle the blood or you do the shechita, so the flesh is part of the same animal. So if you had intention that you're going to offer up the limbs of the animal tomorrow, Rabbi Yossi would agree that that's pigul.
He's
However, when it comes
saying,
to levina is something else.
okay.
Similar to that, yeah.
I don't get it. Before you add the lavona, it's just flour.
No, the levina. Before you add the levina, you see over here, there's going to be a few possibilities of what's happening. One possibility could be that there's two matirim, and you're only dealing with one matir here. You only had intention to offer up. There's two matirim. There's the kaimetz and the levina, and you had thoughts only about the levina, which is only half a matir, and maybe there's a rule that ein mefaglim b'chatzi matir. Then there's another possibility, is that because you have two matirim, you can't have the pigul can't be about another matir. The pigul has to be about something that the matir is effective on, like that it allows the shiraim to be eaten, but it's not allowing something of the levina. So the Gemara is going to go through. Is it this? What did Rabbi Yossi mean? What's it? Yeah, that's one opinion. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So lamali lemesti ma'adir Rabbi Yossi bezu. Maybe. Why does we need to say that Rabbi Yossi agrees? Because we say later on, Lahakte levainasa lemacha, Rabbi Yossi Omer pasal, vein beikaris, because Rabbi Yossi says that if you have intention to offer the levaina tomorrow, then it's pasal and there's no karis. So now the tema, I could have made a mistake. Time of the Rabbi Yossi, what's the reason why Rabbi Yossi doesn't? Why does Rabbi Yossi say that by the levaina, intention to offer the levaina, it's not considered pigul? Because maybe he holds that since the levina is only half of the matir, because I have two matirim here, two things that permit the mincha that make the mincha accepted, which is the kaimetz and the levina. You have to offer them both. You had only thoughts about the levina, but not about the kaimetz. So therefore, ein mefagel mechatzi amater. So therefore, what would come out? That if I had thoughts about the kaimetz, afilu reisha nami. By the reisha, you also had a chatzi amater. What's the chatzi amater? You only had thoughts about the kaimetz, or you only had thoughts about the shirayim. In the reisha also, oy lahakter kaim tzalamacher. You only had thoughts about the kaimetz, not about the levina. So I could have thought that Rabbi Yossi would agree that ein mefagel mechatzi amater is his logic for why the levina doesn't make it pigul. So in the first case also, that should be logic why the kaimis shouldn't make it pigul. Kamash Malan, it comes to tell us that you got it wrong. The reason for Rabbi Yossi was not because of ein mefaglim mechatzi amater. The reason for Rabbi Yossi has to do with something else. And whatever the case is, the Baham, Kamash Malan, the Baham Maida, that Rabbi Yossi would say that if you're thinking just about the kaimitz, it would be pigul. So what was the logic of Rabbi Yossi that he says that the levina won't be pigul? So now the Gemara is going to explain. If you had intentions that he's going to offer up the kaimetz tomorrow, if he's not the kaimetz, if he's going to offer up the levina tomorrow, it's going to be pasal. It's not going to be the won't be kares, which means that it's not pigul. Amr Rish Lakish explains Rabbi Yossi. Aimer Haya Rabbi Yossi. Yeah, Rashi explains that when he says Aimer Haya Rabbi Yossi, he's not saying that Rabbi Yossi would always say this. The expression Aimer Haya Rabbeinu or something means that this is something that he would always say. But over here, it's not always say. This is one specific halacha. What do you mean he would always say this? Not like his motto, So he's saying that hachi taima de Rabbi Yossi. This is what Rabbi Yossi meant. What was that? It says Aimer Rabbi Yossi ein matir nefagalas amater. because I have two matirim here. I have the kaimetz, which is one mater, and the levina is another mater. So while I'm doing one mater, the kaimetz, I can't have thoughts. I can't. The pigel thoughts about it. The other half of this, the other mater, won't be effective. Over there also I have two matirim. I have the two scoops. Over here I have the kaimetz and I have the levina. By the lechem apanim I have the two spoonfuls of levina. That if you offer one spoonful up on the altar, with the intention that the second spoonful you're going to offer tomorrow, ein mater mefagalas mater, we would say that it's not going to be pigel. Okay. My v'cheinata omer. What is Rish Lakish adding with explaining that the same thing would apply with the two spoonfuls of the lechem apanim? It's the same thing. But ma'od the tame. What's the chiddush in there? Ma'od the tame. Matayim the Rabbi Yossi b'lavayna mishum t'lav mini de mincho. Could have thought maybe that what's the logic of Rabbi Yossi, because he says that the levina is not a portion of the mincha. It's not the same type. Mincha is flour and oil, and here you have levina. However, that they're exactly the same. They're both levina. I would say that they're considered one mater. I happen to have two scoops, but it's one mater. Two scoops because it didn't fit in one, so I have two. But it's not different than I have a kaimetz and the levina, which those are shnei matirim. That one, it doesn't affect the other one. Here, maybe I could have thought that it's all one. It's all one. It just happens to be in two spoonfuls because it didn't fit in one. Kamash Malan, it's coming to tell me that it's actually two matirim, and one doesn't affect the other one. Yeah. Mima Tasarma, the Gemara asks, and can you say time of the Rabbi Yossi b'Levayna lam yisham the lav mina de mincha, is that the reason is because it's not a portion of the mincha? How could he even have thought this? Our chiddush was based on that. I could have thought that Rabbi Yossi's reason is different. Therefore, he has to tell me that the reason is. How could he even have thought that the reason should be different? Waktani Seifa, but he says actually. Amrulai, the Chacham said to Rabbi Yossi, why are you making a difference between if he has intention to offer the levina tomorrow from a regular karban, whereas he has intention to offer the limbs tomorrow, right? When he's doing the shchita, has intention that he's going to burn the limbs of the sacrifice, the innards of the sacrifice tomorrow, which everyone agrees that that's pigel. Amalahan, and Rabbi Yossi responded, Zevach tamer b'sarai ve'imur of echad. Levina eina min mincha. It says clearly that the levina is not part of the mincha. No, I don't think so. Fine.
Some say that one concert is good.
Well, the question is, you could be mefagel chatziyamad if you have thoughts only about half, only while performing half of the service, and not the other half. The other half of the service wasn't. As if she needed all the sprinklings of the blood. I've had this. Usually, only one sprinkling of the blood is one that's necessary. The rest of them are additional, but the sacrifice is still valid. But let's say you needed all of the sprinklings, every single one. For example, those chatas that the blood is brought inside, missing one, it's all possible. So if you only had intention by one of those sprinklings, but not by all of the sprinklings, so that would be like chatzi amater, right? Because each one is significant. So here, each one is significant. But going back to this, we were saying that the reason for Rabbi Yossi is not because the levina isn't part of the mincha, isn't the same type as the mincha, That's not the reason. Rather, because even by the two spoonsful of levina, we also say the same halacha. That was our chiddush. So 1 second, but Rabbi Yossi in his argument with the Chachamim, the Chacham said, why are you saying this is different than a regular sacrifice? And he responded, because the levina is not part of the mincha. It's a different type than the mincha. The Gemara explains, Ma yenim in a mincha. What did Rabbi Yossi mean that it's not part of the mincha? Eina be'ikov mincha. It's not. It doesn't. Rabbi Yossi held that it's not ma'akiv the mincha. The lav ki hechi the ma'akiv lo. Kaimitz l'shirayim. The kamad le miskata kaimitz le misach l'shirayim. Don't compare the two. It says that when it comes to the kaimitz, when you have to offer it on the altar, until you offer it on the altar, then the shirayim are not allowed to be eaten. The remnants cannot be eaten. However, when it comes to the levina, so I could have thought like this. I could have thought that you're not allowed to offer up the levina until after the kaimitz is offered. It says, don't say that. Rather, if you want, you can offer the levina first. If you want, you can offer the kaimitz first. So therefore, the levina is totally independent as its own matter. However, when it comes to the sacrifice, the sprinkling of the blood, but there, since there's a specific order that after you sprinkle the blood, then you're allowed to offer up the limbs. So then it's all considered one animal.
Is what Rav Yossi says correct? That it can be given separately?
I think so, yeah. You can offer the levina before the kaimitz.
So then the carbon mincha isn't really one thing. It's more a process than a thing, if he's correct.
Yeah, that you can offer them up independently.
Yeah.
And let me see what the comment says over here.
Yeah, we make so many distinctions between the minchas chote that doesn't have a good smell, right? Is not beautiful compared to the one that has frankincense that is beautiful. Seems kind of funny they can offer it separately.
So you're saying that's a problem that they're offered separately?
Yeah, because then you're not really beautifying the mincha.
I think what it means is that over here I have two independent matirim, as opposed to over there, because it's a process of a sequence. So this is matir that. By a regular karban, this is matir that. But because over here I can have this matir and that matir, I have two matirim. So then this is not matir that. The kaimitz isn't matir the levina. It doesn't do anything for the levina. The levina could be offered without the kaimitz, or prior to the kaimitz. So therefore, those are two independent matirim, and ein mefaglim, one matir on another matir. What was the expression? Ein matir mefagel as a matir. Is describing how they're independent, and therefore one matir can't be mefagel the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Gemara asks the Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan said that the kaimitz would, if you have thoughts of offering the levina tomorrow, while you're doing the kmitza, so that would be pigel. What did they say? Because apparently they're saying that a matir can yes be mefagel another matir. So the Gemara says that ki amrinan ein matir mefagel as a matir. When would I say that one matir can't be mefagel another one? That means if you had thoughts about this one while you're performing this one, you had thoughts about that one. That would only be a case that we have here in the parentheses. Legabe Talking about the two sheep, two lambs that come along with the two loaves of bread on Shavuos. But both sheep, those are two matirim, right? If you slaughter one with intention of offering the other one tomorrow, that would be two matirim for the breads. That's because they weren't put into the same vessel. Two lambs. But the kaimets and the levina that go into the same vessel, they're considered one. It's considered one large matir. It's not considered this matir and that matir. It's not two independent matirim. So therefore, they could be mefagal each other. Let's try to get to the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yanai says, Likat levina, when you collect the levina off the mincha in order to offer it up on the fire. Bizarre, puzzle. If a zar did that, it's going to be puzzle. My time, what's the reason? The problem is because it's part of the halacha, and halacha bizarre is puzzle. The halacha means the walking it up to the altar. Kasavar halacha shlei beregel. From halacha, obviously, Rabbi Yanai holds that halacha without walking. This is a discussion. Is that considered halacha? Taking it and passing it over to the altar. Taking the blood by a regular sacrifice, but even without moving your feet, it's considered halacha. And halacha bizarre is psula, because over here we're considering just the scooping of the levina off the mincha as considered halacha. Amar Rav Mari says, Afananami tanina. We actually consider the collecting of the levina as part of the avodah, because we have it in a Mishnah. It says, Aklal, the rule is, anyone that does kamitza and then puts it into a vessel. There's someone that walks it up to the altar and someone that offers it onto the altar. And he has intentions. It's going to be pigel, it's chayv kares, which means that these are avodas that affect the pigel. Bishleim kaimetz. What would kaimetz correspond to? Hainu sheichet. That corresponds to the shechita. We've been saying this the whole time. That the four services of the mincha correspond to the four services of a regular sacrifice. So the shechita corresponds to the kaimetz. Mailech nami hainu mailech. The walking of the kaimetz up to the altar is the walking of the blood up to the altar. Makdir hainu zayrek. The burning of the kaimetz on the fire is the sprinkling. Is corresponding to the sprinkling of the blood of the carbon. Elenaisim bekeli ma'ikavid. But putting the kaimetz into a vessel. Which avodah does that correspond to? Ilim b'shem dedami lakabala. Maybe would say that it's like receiving the blood. He says midami hasam emela. That's not corresponding to that, because the blood flows in naturally. It falls out of the animal's neck. It spurts out of the animal's neck into the vessel. Acha kashakol v'rami. But here he's taking it and throwing it in. So this is his action. This is not just standing there with a cup receiving what's falling out. Ella mishum. But since it's just something that needs to be done, so avodah chashuvi, we consider it significant. So we're considering like Kabbalah. So achanami, so therefore, similarly to this would be collecting the levina off the top of the mincha. It's not acceptable if it won't be performed. So then avodah chashuvi and we're going to compare it to halacha. Gemara says, loy. Kabbalah. Maybe we should say that it's similar to Kabbalah. The kakashalach, we said, 1 second, how can you compare putting it into a vessel as Kabbalah Saddam, as receiving the dam? Hasa memela, hacha kashakal v'rami. Over there, it's spurted into it naturally from the animal's neck. Over here, you have to put it in. It says, michti, tarvayo kedushas kelihu. Both of those are sanctification of a vessel. The vessel. Not of the vessel, but via the vessel. The vessel is sanctifying what's being put into it. So it could be it's the blood that's going into it. It could be it's the kaimetz that's going into it. That's the same idea. But mali memela mali the kashak of rami. What's the difference if you're putting it in? However, if you're putting it in or if it's flowing in from that doesn't matter. The fact is it's going into a vessel and becoming consecrated. However, by likat levina, could say that it's not considered a service at all because you're not actually walking it. When you're walking something up, that's a different story. But maybe the likat levina is different. So we just leave it here as without a proof.
Yeah, it seems like they're just looking.
Okay, let's leave it at the Mishnah.
Putting it in the vessel and putting it in the vessel. Like, both are involving vessel. How many arguments we have? Naturally versus putting it in there.
Okay, have a good day, everyone.